Hello boys and girls, today on Retro Review I want to take a look at the Atari 2600. I have two versions of the Atari 2600. This is the 2600 Junior and this is the Flashback 2 actually. Now, I couldn't get my hands on any older ones, especially any older ones that weren't defective, broken, worth tearing down. So this is what I have. There were actually about 4 or 5 different models. I didn't realize that until I did a little research on this just before the video actually. The first version had many switches at the top. The second version had fewer switches. And the third version was, I believe, a darker version. And the fourth, I believe, was a version completely made for Sears. But let's just get into what we got. So, this system was developed in 1977. According to Wikipedia, these things were manufactured up till 1992, which makes it one of the longest lasting systems available. So, here's what we got in the back. Standard control ports. As we all know, you can use your regular controllers or you can use the Genesis controllers on there. That is actually a very standard serial input, I believe. That's what we got. So, as a kid, all of my friends had one of these. And nobody just had 1 or 2 games. It's like if you had one of these, you had a box of games. If you didn't have about 7 or 8 games, something was wrong. And I used to think that these things... I used to think that everybody had a million of these things. Anyways, I didn't get a system until the Super Nintendo came out. My brother had the idea of saving, and I got all our money together, and we got a system, but all my friends had this. And even when I was playing Super Nintendo, a lot of people would find these in the dump at yard sales and bring them home. And they're all kinds of good fun. You never really had to blow on the cartridge. It just worked for the most point. The control packs worked. Oops, I'm missing a Phillips head. You can always tell when you're getting into older and older systems. They seem to be easier to take apart. Atari is a very fascinating part of the video game market when it comes to history. It was the biggest part in the video game market crash. Now, even if we were alive during the market crash, we would have hardly even noticed it because it hit the markets more than it hit us. It turns out all the parts within the Atari are actually standard. All the parts. You can make an Atari without breaking any copyrights like back in the day. In fact, it was so bad that in television, where are we here? In television, which was a major competitor of Atari, and not many people remember these days, Intellivision was a system that demanded to be just like the arcades. Everyone wanted to be like the arcades. Anyways, Intellivision decided that they were going to make an add-on for the Atari on the front of their system. So for about 60 bucks, I think it was, you could get an Atari add-on. Damn clips. Sorry, for less than the cost of a new Atari, if you had an Intellivision, you could get a little console that would plug into the front of your Intellivision, and bam, there you had an Atari. Atari took Intellivision to court about it, but I don't think much happened with that. You'll have to look up the ending of that one yourself. Anyways, it was so easy. You didn't have to have a copyright to make video games. You didn't have to talk to Atari. You could just go off and make whatever you wanted. I'm pretty sure even Purina made video games for this system. Everybody was making games for Atari. And Atari wasn't seeing a whole lot of that money. So they really shot themselves in the foot. They should have hit the copyright scene better, but they couldn't. Anyways, because of that, the market was flooded. But the market wasn't only just flooded with video games, it was flooded with horrible video games that nobody wanted to play. In the case of the Purina, I think you had to get like so many puppy chows and send off, and they would send you a game. But some of these games were horrible, not even complete yet. But it wasn't just these third parties that were making these games that were destroying the video game universe. It was the manufacturers themselves. They made some horrible decisions, made some horrible games. I'm sure you guys have heard the story about E.T. on Atari. Anyways, what's up with that is the maker of it, of the video game system, said, yes, I will take this unbelievably short amount of time to make this game so that it will see Christmas release, because if you don't have the Christmas release, you're really losing a lot of money. Let's face it, everybody spends money at Christmas. So he tried, and he failed horribly. He made a game, E.T., that was just so horrible, and about that time, I'm pretty sure video games were about $50. They were more expensive for the money you paid than it is right now. And a lot of people were getting this game and also Pac-Man, and the game just turned out to be so horrible that that people lost faith in the market. If they wanted to get a horrible game, they didn't have to get one directly from the company. They could just go out and get a horrible game made by Purina. So because of all these factors, the market being flooded, the third-party stuff being released, horrible video games that were made by themselves, the Atari took a real hit. Now, another issue I should mention that killed the Atari was the fact that they were releasing so many systems, worse than Sega. Now, as you remember, Sega released the Genesis, the Sega CD, the 32X, and those things all bombed pretty horribly. So that's pretty well the exact same thing that happened with Atari. They were releasing too much junk, just way too much junk. And at the same time, they were making, even their competitors were making things that were so outrageous, so outlandish. Again, just like the dot-com bubble, everyone thought you could do everything with computers and just threw money at computers. When it turned out the practicality wasn't as good as they thought it would be, the whole thing just tanked. So it wasn't until Nintendo came along that we actually managed to get strength in the markets again. So let's take a look at the soldering job. I find this interesting because, man, those are some pretty long spikes. I almost wonder if this was made by hand. Next up, I got the Atari Flashback 2. Now, this was a remake. We remade it, geez, I think this one was made only about 2 or 3 years ago. Anyways, I got her at a yard sale for a song. Haven't even started it, so might as well open her up and see what's on the inside. Next, once I'm done this, I will be cracking open an Atari game. So I'll finally get to see what the cartridges look like. Yeah, after the system, Atari would never have its power back. It would never be as important. Every turn Atari ever took was horrible, and if you see Atari on anything, it's probably a piece of junk. Unless it's a retro t-shirt, then it'll do you fine. There goes the warranty. Just pops right open. Oh, wow, that's nothing. That is nothing. Wow. Just one little board. That is nothing. Oh, the power soldered right into it. Look at that. There's nothing to it. That's amazing. Flashback 2. It's just one little board. That's all. That's what the Atari system was reduced to in the Flashback 2. Not much to it, really cool. Old school. Anyways, let's set this aside. And we'll get that back together. Let's bring it down a bit. Okay, so anyways, look at that. That's it. That is a board for an Atari game. That is so small. Jeez. It's thick, but it's small. I think this might be the smallest cartridge chip I've ever seen. That's fascinating. Anyways, yeah, a whole bunch of stuff was disposed of in the desert, and back in the day it was a big deal. It was either EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, or GamePro that said that it was all a farce and it never actually happened. And then later on I found out it did, and they went to the site and they found some stuff. Freaking awesome. It was my dream to go to that location, so at least it's been realized. At least it happened. But anyways, yeah, that's the retro review, the teardown of the Atari system, and hope you like it. Like, subscribe if you like what you see. Now, excuse me, I gotta get these things back together. Have a good one.